everyone, what's up? My name is Joss and welcome back to my channel Squibbles Reads. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a chill type of video. This is the on my shelf tag. I don't know if it's actually a tag, but it's an on my shelf video. And basically what this video allows people to do is see some of the books that are on your shelf, whether you've read them or if you just bought them and they're just kind of sitting there and waiting for you to read them. What you do is that you ask your followers or subscribers or your friends or whatever to give you like the number of a shelf and the number of a book on the shelf. So for me personally, for my friends and followers to have done that, I had to explain a little bit about my book organizing system. So let me do that really quick. So behind me I have a shelf, and my shelf is 4 across and 4 down. So there are 16 different sections. And I also organize my books in alphabetical order by author's last name. And my books are 2 rows deep. So there is a front row and a back row. The back row consists of the first half of the alphabet, and the front row consists of the second half of the alphabet. And then in each of those 16 sections, I can stack about 12 books in the front and 12 books in the back, maybe 11 or 12. So what I had you guys do is I had around 10 to 12 people give me the number of one of the sections, so a number between 1 and 16, and then front or back, and then also a number between 1 and 11 to indicate the number of book. So the numbers that people gave me were like totally random, and then I went and picked those books off of my shelf, and I have a whole pile here to show you guys what those are. I'll give you the number of the shelf, the front or back, and then the number of the book, and then I'll let you guys know what the book is and a little bit about what that book's about and if I've read it, and if I've read it, kind of like a brief summary of what I thought of it or what the synopsis is or whatever. Okay, this is gonna be kind of a mess. I don't know, wearing the shirt is already kind of a mess. I'm like fussing with it already. Anyways, okay, let's start and I'll let you guys know what all these books are. All right, so the first set of numbers that someone picked for me is the 8th shelf and in the front, and book number 9, and that book is Black Iris by Leah Rader. I think I read this during Rainbow-thon of 2016. I'm not 100% sure, but sometime in early of 2016. I really loved this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. This book is super hard to explain, but there's a girl named Lainey, and she has a whole bunch of issues in her life that she's grappling with and also dealing with some mental health challenges. She did something for a person that she had a crush on, and then it kind of all spiraled out of control. There are issues like drug use. There are characters in non-heterosexual relationships. I can't really say very much more about this because there is kind of like a suspense element to it, but I did really love this. I gave this 4.5 stars when I read it. Okay, so the next set of numbers that was picked for me was the 11th shelf in the back in book number 6, and this book actually has a sticker on it, and I am mildly embarrassed about it, but this book I actually haven't read yet. This is Someday Maybe, and it's actually by Lauren Graham, who is, yes, it is Lorelai Gilmore. That's the only reason why I bought this book. I don't know too much about it. It's set in 1995, and a woman named Franny, it looks like she has gone to New York and she has dreamt of going to Broadway and doing important work. And I do remember Lauren Graham talking a little bit about this in her memoir. I listened to it on audiobook, and just kind of her process about writing this book and how she kind of wanted to portray some of her own struggles in the entertainment industry. So I know I haven't read it, but it's Lauren Graham, so I feel like I just had to buy it just to support her. The next book is from shelf number 4 in the back and book number 5, and that book is Sweet Home by Karis Bray. This is, I think, a collection of short stories. I know this was going around BookTube a lot, I think early last year as well. It says on the back that there are 17 different notions of home, so I'm guessing that means 17 different stories. It talks about things like motherhood, about raising children, about being in a household and family dynamics. Again, I haven't read this, but I have heard a lot of good things about it here on BookTube. So next we have on the 13th shelf in the back in book number 9, and this is actually, I kind of forgot about this book, but I once upon a time really loved this book. This is kind of like one of my ultimate comfort reads. This book is The Friday Night Knitting Club by Kate Jacobs. It also has a sticker on it because apparently I just never used to take stickers off of books. The plot is actually really simple of this book. It's just about a group of women who come together in, like, I think an arts and crafts store, and they just knit and they talk, and it follows all of their lives and all of their different like trials and tribulations. It honestly is just kind of like one of those reads that I just go back to, not recently, not like in the past few years, but I know that I used to like read this book again and again just to get that kind of warm fuzzy feeling. Alright, so next we have shelf number 7 in the front and book number 7, and that book is Vanessa and Her Sister by Priya Parmar. This is a book book that I have not read yet. So this book is set in London in 1905, and we follow 4 siblings who are the Stephen siblings, and 2 of those siblings are Vanessa Bell and Virginia Woolf. Virginia Woolf, who I know pretty well because I studied Mrs. Dalloway in first year English, and she's also written a whole bunch of other works. Some of them have feminist themes and queer characters in them. Apart from that, I don't know a ton about this book. I do know that it also kind of draws on the relationship between Vanessa and her sister, so Vanessa and Virginia, and just kind of how that whole relationship was with Virginia being a writer. Apart from that, again, I don't know too much about it, but this cover is really, really pretty. The next book also comes from shelf number 7, but we are in the back row this time, and this is book number 9, and this is called 70% Acrylic, 30% Wool by Viola Di Grotto. This is a book that I got, I think, at a library book sale, which is why it has like this library tag thing on it. So I also have not read this book, but I have been intending to for a long time. I always think about it because the title is, I feel like, very original. This is about a woman whose name is Camelia, and she is a young Italian woman, and she lives in Leeds in England. It also looks like her husband has died in an accident, and her mom no longer speaks, so they communicate in their own language. I'm not sure if it's sign language, it doesn't actually say. But Camelia then meets a man whose name is Wen, and he starts to teach her Chinese. And it talks about Camelia's evolution through the learning of different types of language to communicate with Wen and to communicate with her mother, according to the blurb on this. Now this really makes me want to read this book, so I'm glad that this was one of the ones that came off my shelf. The next book, also on shelf 7 in the back, we have book number 4. This is the Mersault Investigation by Kamel Daoud. I think this is a retelling or a homage or something to do with like a variation on Albert Camus' The Stranger. It says on the blurb, because I also have not read this one, The Stranger is central to Daoud's story, in which he both endorses and criticizes one of the most famous novels in the world. So I guess that it is just, The Stranger was kind of just the inspiration for this book. Alright, so we are going to shelf number 6. We are going in the front and book number 4. This is A Kata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. This is another book that I haven't read, and now I'm thinking, how many books on my shelf have I not read yet? But Nnedi Okorafor is also the author of Binti, and I think she also wrote the Book of Phoenix, which was one of my BookTube recommends books. This is about a girl named Sunny. She lives in Nigeria, but she was born in New York City. People think that she is West African, but she actually is an albino, so she cannot go out into the sun. And she's a really good soccer athlete, but not being able to go out in the sun means that she can't really play soccer. One of her classmates and his friend, they find out that they have magical abilities, and Sunny also finds out that she has magical abilities, so she very quickly has to learn some of these abilities. And together with their combined skills, they have to go and track down a serial killer. This sounds really, really cool. I don't know why I haven't read it yet. I remember distinctly being in the middle of finals in fall, and I had that massive exam, if you guys remember, if you were around at the beginning of December, that I had to study for. And I remember taking this book to school and just repeatedly being like, God, but I have to study. So yeah. There's that one. Okay, the next book is actually a book that is right next to this book. It is shelf 6 in the front and book number 3. This is Signs and Wonders by Alex Olin. I got this book from Thrift Books a while back. I think it might have been my first or second Thrift Books order, but this is a collection of short stories. It just kind of discusses the connections between people. Alex Olin has also written a couple other books that I haven't read. This is the only one of hers that I've read, but I do remember really liking the short stories. I think at that time, I hadn't started BookTube yet when I read this book, but I do remember really liking the short stories, but not like, I don't remember really loving these short stories. I think if I remember like kind of my emotional reaction to it right now, I would guess that I would have probably given it like 3.5 to 4 stars. I don't know if that means anything. Okay, so I have 2 more books to show you guys. This next one is in the front. It is shelf number 2 and book number 2 on shelf number 2. This is I See You by Claire Mackintosh. Claire Mackintosh wrote one of my favorite thrillers, I Let You Go. This is, I think, her second book, or it came out after I Let You Go. This one is about a woman named Zoe, and she sees her face in a newspaper in the want ads, and under her face there is the URL of a website and I think a phone number or something like that, but she doesn't remember ever giving her photo to something like this, and every day after that she sees a new woman's photo in the newspaper, and she has to figure out why and who got this photo and what that website actually is. If I had to compare this this one with her other novel, I Let You Go. I would definitely recommend I Let You Go over this one. I think I gave this one 3 stars when I read it. It was several months ago, but I definitely would recommend the other one over this one. Okay, this is the last book. This is a book that I haven't read yet. This is called All the Broken Things, and I cannot pronounce this author's name, so I'm gonna study it for 2 seconds. I think her name is Catherine Kittenbauer. I'm not entirely sure, and I'm really sorry if I said that wrong. I honestly don't remember where I got this book from, and that is probably pretty bad, but it is apparently set in September of 1983, and we have a boy named Beau, and he lives in Toronto. He is 14 years old and refugee from Vietnam. He also has a little sister who has some sort of disability or disfigurement, and Beau has to take care of her. Apparently one day there is also a carnival worker and a bear trainer who spots Beau one day and decides to give Beau a bear cub to take care of and raise, and Beau turns out to be actually pretty good at this, and they go on a journey through Toronto. I'm not entirely sure, but I am very intrigued by this, and I totally forgot that I had it, so also glad that this one came off my shelf. Okay, that is it for this video. That was way longer of a video than I thought it would be. If you guys have read any of these books, let me know. If you think any of them sound interesting, let me know. If you like these type of videos, also let me know, because this is my first one of these, and I think that it was pretty cool to just kind of shop and look through my shelves again. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye!